Anime fans can't help but wonder how villainous abilities would work in the real world, like Buggy the Clown's devil fruit in One Piece. Anime is really creative when it comes to magic systems. It's normal to see abilities like super strength and flying, just like any other entertainment genre. However, anime creators often think outside of the box when inventing powers, whether those abilities make sense or not. Even if an anime's magic system is easy for fans to understand, there will inevitably be one character with abilities that leaves fans questioning how those powers can possibly function effectively in battle. Whether the powers defy physics, human anatomy, or common sense, fans can't help but wonder how these abilities would work in the real world. Number 10. Zeref's Infinite Magic. Fairy Tale. Zeref's entire goal was to gain the magic that was sealed off in Mavis. With that power, he supposedly had access to infinite magic. His ultimate goal even involved traveling back in time to stop Acnologia before he could ever go berserk. However, if Zeref really had infinite magic, why wasn't he powerful enough to fight Acnologia one-on-one? Ultimately, Zeref's so-called infinite magic amounted to little more than a change to his aura and hair color. At the end of the day, Natsu easily knocked Zeref out and sent him back into his normal form. Number 9. Moonfish's Blade Tooth Quirk. My Hero Academia. Moonfish from My Hero Academia is a creepy character with an even creepier quirk. He can extend his teeth and use them like swords to attack his enemies. The quirk is simple and effective, but it's hard to believe a quirk like this would actually work in battle. Moonfish can extend the length of his teeth, but wielding something so long and cumbersome would actually make fighting harder, not easier. Plus, teeth can be pretty fragile when they aren't taken care of. Considering Moonfish's mental state, it's unlikely he brushes twice a day. Number 8. Grand Fisher's Memory. Bleach. Grand Fisher from Bleach isn't like any normal hollow. He's evaded capture for over 50 years, and he's responsible for Ichigo's mother's death. He isn't the strongest opponent Ichigo's had to face, but his ability to use the image of Ichigo's mother, Masaki, against him proves difficult to contend with. However, it doesn't really make sense that Grand Fisher can remember Masaki considering how many people he's killed. 6 years is a long time, so it's obvious his power is more about plot convenience than anything else. Number 7. Buggy the Clown's Bara Bara no Mi Devil Fruit. One Piece. Originally, Buggy the Clown from One Piece only existed for comedic effect. He wasn't particularly strong or brave, but his character has grown, especially with his powerful devil fruit powers. Buggy can split his body into pieces and reassemble them at will. This ability is pretty convenient since Buggy's basically immune to sword attacks, but his power raises a lot of questions with fans, such as what happens to his internal organs when he splits apart? How are his muscles able to function properly? Compared to other devil fruit powers, Buggy's is the type fans have to accept without question because it's obvious his abilities don't make sense. Number 6. Susumaru's Perfect Accuracy. Demon Slayer. Susumaru may not be the strongest demon in Demon Slayer, but she's pretty powerful. She is physically strong, which allows her to throw her Tamari with great force. She also possesses a blood demon art, which is how she summons the Tamari. Susumaru's abilities prove effective against Tanjiro and Nezuko, but ultimately, it makes little sense. Every throw is perfectly accurate, even though Susumaru's abilities allow her to summon the Tamari, not control them. It's also not clear if she continues to summon the Tamari or if they bounce back toward her with every throw. Considering how often Nezuko deflects her attacks, it doesn't make sense for Susumaru to get the Tamari back every time. Number 5. Hidan's Immortality. Naruto. Hidan has the most unusual jutsu in Naruto Shippuden. He's immune to nearly all attacks, making him immortal. Even having his head cut off wasn't enough to kill him. He's the only character in Naruto Shippuden with immortality, and the explanation for it doesn't make any sense. Hidan gains immortality by experimenting with Jashinism, which is a cult that worships Jashin. Other than this brief explanation, there isn't any real concrete explanation for how Hidan became immortal. Also, it's strange that no other power-hungry character has tried to gain the same immortality. His abilities are cool, but it's a lot easier for fans to accept fire breathing than the idea that Hidan can never die. Number 4. Francis Scott's The Great Fitzgerald, Bungo Stray Dogs. The character's abilities in Bungo Stray Dogs are unusual, but Francis Scott's ability is the most unusual by far. By using his ability called the Great Fitzgerald, he can gain strength in accordance with the amount of money he spends. It's lucky that Francis is incredibly rich because an ability like his is only useful for someone with money to spend. Francis Scott loses all his money after the detective agency defeats him, but he's quickly able to gain it back. Francis's ability is unique, but the idea of his strength being tied to his money is hard for fans to understand. What he's buying is never stated, so fans have to wonder how he's able to spend millions at the drop of a hat. Even if spending money makes him stronger, spending the kind of money he needs to be stronger takes forever, effectively making his ability useless in a fight. Number 3. Father's Sentience, Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood. Father is the most powerful character in Fullmetal Alchemist Brotherhood, but where his power comes from is never really answered. Hohenheim's blood helped Father come into existence, but it's unclear how Hohenheim's blood could give the dwarf in the flask enough sentience to crave more power. Once the dwarf in the flask becomes Father, it's even less clear how Father can split parts of his personality. Losing those personality traits doesn't actually make him emotionless or less human, further muddling the matter. Number 2. Kishot's Limb Regeneration, Kizumonogatari. The abilities of a vampire are pretty self-explanatory. Still, Kizumonogatari makes a few changes to vampire lore that makes Kishot's abilities a little unbelievable. During Kishot's fight with Araragi, she can grow back her body parts within seconds, so it's strange that she was left so injured in part 1 of Kizumonogatari. If Kishot can grow back entire parts of her body, it shouldn't matter that her limbs were stolen. The fight between Kishot and Araragi was pretty cool, but it makes the plot completely pointless. Number 1. Oken's Immortality, Ranking of Kings. It's not Oken's sword skills that make him so powerful in Ranking of Kings. He's immortal like Hidan from Naruto Shippuden. However, Oken's immortality is far more powerful. He's able to recover from getting smashed into a ball, which is pretty unbelievable. How Oken can reform from nothing is never really answered. Plus, his clothes miraculously reform, which is more unbelievable than his body coming back. It would make sense if he could rewind himself, but considering the mental break he suffered from his inability to die, that's clearly not the case.